Hi everyone, it's Dante Starshine here. This is the update in the ongoing Teal Swan case, where this documentary, The Deep End, recently came out, and Teal has now put so much footage up online showing how she's been deceived, and they were purposely filming in a way that and getting actually the audience to behave in ways so that they could use that film to present Teal in a certain light. They I spoke about this in other videos as well. Like, we really need to see what was going on during that water breath. Was that a healing therapy, or was that a sort of torture that was bringing people too far into the experience that was almost re-traumatizing them? Though evidence has come out on Teal's behalf that the water breath seems pretty docile and actually pretty therapeutic. What else have we seen is Teal's conversation, where she's not allowing people to question her authority, coming across as actually more playful and not as harsh and intense. The truth is that somebody has many different sides. And that's something that Teal talks about a lot in her clips. And when I went to one of her workshops, she was talking about how we need to be very aware of how people are filming and presenting us ideas, because with little bits of information, something can be totally skewed to present a totally different image of some person. However, this doesn't take Teal completely into the innocent. So we have two people here that are doing something a little bit negative and dishonest. The director was clearly very dishonest, and I cannot condone a director like this. I think that this could have been presented in a much clearer and more thorough way, where the director could have also highlighted some of Teal's lighter aspects and pointed to how Teal has changed lives. There's also videos out there from people who were in the deep end, and more are coming out and asking people to sign cease and desist and blah blah blah. And I think it is important that Teal defends herself to some degree, though what I said in the previous videos still remains very true. And it all comes back to this sort of cult dynamic. So, regardless of the fact that Teal was deceived and these are dishonest people, we want to remember that who is this harming most of everyone are the people participating and the people in the spiritual community, because people have a tendency to group people into lumps, and oh, the spiritual people are these kinds of people, so I'm seeing in this documentary spiritual people, and now I'm gonna think this about everybody who's doing alternative therapies or open to new age spirituality or metaphysics or any of this. And that is why it is important to stand up to these directors, but also we've seen enough. And the director has said that he was showing Teal in the light that he himself was seeing her. What isn't clear, and what I would love to hear from this director, did you see Teal this way from the very beginning, or was this something that developed over time? I can see how, when you get to the very end of all of those reveals, and you see that Teal comes out with these, or they've all agreed to the non-negotiables, that maybe you would do a polar opposite switch in your perception of somebody. And what Teal says about somebody who is attracted to a teacher can sometimes portray them as the angel and then switch their perception to see them as a demon is partially true, but it is only partially true, again, when somebody has some of the psychological conditions or narcissistic tendencies that Teal has. I'm not a psychologist. I cannot diagnose Teal as a narcissist without getting to experience her more up close, but it's obvious that she has narcissistic tendencies. There's a bit of a difference between narcissistic tendencies and narcissism, but the narcissistic tendencies there are extreme. And as people have written in comments, this feels like a cult dynamic. Those of us who have survived and lived through a cult dynamic feel oh, this is so similar to what I experienced with some of my teachers. So let me talk about some teachers that I've worked with again. Um, the teachers appealed to in all of the students, you are a witch, you are a wizard, you're a magical person, you're a healer, and presented them, fed their ego with this notion from early into the experience. Though you weren't able to recognize, you weren't recognized for this healing power, and no one around you, your family, actually rejected your magic and pushed you away because you're a magical being. Yet, we are here and we embrace you as the family, and we will be your new family, and now you belong. And also, people are guided through tremendous and deep healings where they get to unpack their psyche and they get to feel love and belonging. Because so much of what we need and what we lack in this world is love and belonging. The capitalistic world, where we have to work so much and think so much and dedicate so much of our time to figuring out how we will survive, is unnatural, and it deprives us of this deep sense of love and belonging that is natural for every human being to feel love and feel well. So obviously, when you create a center or you create a retreat or you create everything, you are giving people this amazing healing when you give them that sense of love and belonging. But one of the worst things that can possibly happen is to give somebody that experience and then to pull the carpet out from under them and re-abandon them and re-traumatize them. Now, there is some suggestion with some of the people that have come out explaining what went down with them and Teal, that sometimes Teal does this to people too. And on one level, even healers and teachers are human. And what so we have to accept their humanness and recognize, as I've said in the other videos, that we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, and still honor the healing and the wisdom and the understanding that we have received from them. And at the same time, we don't want to let them continue to get away from with it. So I think it's really important that people who are in Teal Tribe and who do want to support Teal actually invite her to hold herself accountable. The non-negotiables are very, very clear examples of a cult dynamic. You cannot make a list of rules that starts with Teal is the priority and everything else in my life comes after that, and say that this is not a cult dynamic. So what Teal needs to do is not just talk about how she was portrayed in this negative light by manipulative tactics and betrayal and deception, which is true. She needs to talk about what we have seen now, that they have gotten all of this footage. We need to see the other footage, but we also need her to come accountable. And again, as I have said, even if she's right in saying that the people who agreed to the non-negotiables wrote the non-negotiables, we don't see all of the pretext. We don't see the years of conditioning and grooming that might have been involved in bringing those people to be willing to sign the non-negotiables. I've seen cults, small cults and big cults, and everybody who gets up in the organization and gets to that inner circle does so through their choosing. They have to jump through hoops and they have to sacrifice things, but the person at the center of the cult gives this image and gives this idea and gives this notion that to be in the center of this organization will be so spiritually beneficial and will be so good for them and so good for their well-being and their health and all of these things, that when you think that way and when you see that way, it becomes an obvious choice. No one makes a choice that they don't think is best for them. And so these people who have signed off on saying, yes, I'm going to give my life away, Teal comes before me, were groomed in some way, or they believed that, as Teal said, this cause is for saving humanity. And I do think Teal's wisdom is really important for changing humanity, and I think she's leaving a really powerful, positive impact on humanity. Though somebody, to come into their integrity, has to look at, as Teal always says, both the negative and the positive. Teal needs to listen to her own advice and recognize, as she said, that she's the bad guy in some cases. No one wants to admit that they're the bad guy. The funniest thing is that Teal presents herself as somebody who has superior intuition and intuitive capabilities. Yet she was not able to see this deception coming. She was not able to see that this magical, wonderful thing, this horrible thing, rather. I'm talking too fast for myself. I'm sorry. I have only so much time today, so I'm talking fast. But she wasn't able to see this horrible thing coming, and she claims to be so intuitive. I'm intuitive, I do channeling, I do energy work, I see things in people. And the truth is we can have a very, very sharp intuition when it comes to other people. In my own life, sometimes I get stuck with things that I don't understand, and I reach out for guidance because I know that a mirror is much easier to see myself because I'm seeing things from my perspective. Though, who are Teal's mirrors? If they are just people that she groomed to see her as this wholly illuminated being, that's not a clear enough mirror, because a mirror like that isn't going to want to offend somebody like Teal. And as we've seen through the deep end, Teal's very sensitive. And I honestly have compassion for her, and I don't think that she is a bad person. It's very easy to see people behaving these ways and just totally hate them. And when I started to see the cult-like behaviors and the narcissistic behaviors and the abuse in some of the people that totally changed my life and taught me things that I teach other people and helped my third eye open and my psychic gifts awaken, I was just, I didn't like them for a while. And it was hard for me to own everything I learned from them and hard for me to walk my path. And I have simply come to learn that some people have this narcissistic experience, and it's hard for them to not behave the way that they behave. So we have to have compassion for them, and we have to really learn a lot about their condition and hold them accountable with love. Everyone deserves love, and Teal deserves love too, though there's something fishy going on there. Even if she was framed, which she was deceived, rather, not necessarily framed. So my camera's running out of space today. I'm gonna end it here. It was just a quick one, just to re-emphasize that yes, there's deception going on, and also we've seen enough to know that this has a cult-like dynamic. And in order for it to be a really thorough and clear analysis, Teal needs to come out owning her shadows and speaking more about these non-negotiables and why somebody would sign themselves over to that. A mission is important, but the inner reality of a person is much more important than the service to the all. Because if somebody is not in alignment and happy in their own lives, it doesn't matter who they're serving or what they're serving. It's going to come through in a distorted way. And maybe Teal really believes what she says about herself, though she needs a really good look in a clear mirror.